because we're missing it. This is the fourth aliyah of Parshas B'Shalach, and it's one of the most famous portions of the Torah. Everybody knows about the splitting of the sea. The whole world knows about this miracle. Today, together, we're going to learn it inside in the original words of the Torah, how it's written in the Torah, together with Rashi's commentary explaining the different words of the Torah and the different backgrounds to these verses. So here we go. Hashem el Moshe, Hashem says to Moshe, V'tei es yodcha al hayam, spread your hand out over the river, over the sea, over the ocean. V'yashuvu hamayim al Mitzrayim, and the waters will return on top of the Egyptians. Remember, we learned in yesterday's Chumash that the Egyptians ran in after the Jews. And Rashi says they were standing like walls, and the water will just return to its original, situation, how it was flowing as it was before. It will cover the chariots and all the horsemen that were running after the Jewish people. So Moshe stretched your hand out a second time. First time Hashem told him to stretch it in yesterday's Chumash to split the ocean. And now Hashem is telling him again to stretch out his hand in order to return the water to its original power. Yeit Moshe's yadai, and Moshe stretches out his hand on the ocean, on the river. Vayashav hayam lifnois baiker. And the river returned. Remember, we said yesterday it was Ashmureis HaBaiker. Now it's saying Lifnois Baiker. It was as the morning was coming. As soon as it was approaching, it was getting closer, I guess, to the morning. So they run they started in the 1/3 of the night, before the end of the night, before the morning, and it's getting closer to the morning. And he goes and he stretches out his hand, Moshe Rabbeinu, and the water starts returning, coming back to where it was, to the strength, to the power. You know how mighty power these waters are. Everything's returning. They saw it to its original strength. And meanwhile, the Egyptians were running after the Jews. And Rashi says they were crazed, like war battle crazed. And they were confused. And instead of running away, they were running into the waters. They didn't know, they were like in this, this crazy state. And they're running into the ocean as the ocean is collapsing on both sides of them. The Yinair Hashem es Mitzrayim. And God stirred, he shook up like a pot. Rashi says, you know how you ever shook up a pot? You want to get mixed up, the food on the bottom to the top to the bottom. Hashem has the heavy waters come down, and the torrential flooding, you could imagine what was going on, was shaking them up and down. And Rashi adds that they could have died on impact from the unbelievable pressure of the water coming down. And Rashi says, like, Hashem gave them strength so that they shouldn't die instantly, that they should be able to withhold the punishment that they so rightfully deserved. And Hashem caused that to happen. And Hashem shook them up and stirred them in the sea, in the Egyptians in the sea. Okay, verse 28, Vayashuvu hamayim, and the waters returned. V'chasu es harechav, and it covered the chariots, v'saproshim, and the horsemen. All the army, the entire force of Pharaoh starts covering them up. Habayim achremu were coming after them bayam into the ocean. Nishar behem ad echad, and not one of them ended up surviving. Hashem drowned it out, the entire force that was attacking the Jewish people. 1 minute, 1 second, Hashem has Moshe Rabbeinu stretches his hands, the water returns and literally wipes out this unbelievable, wipes out the entire army that was following the Jews into the sea in order to kill them, and now they're wiped out in the ocean. So it was like I said yesterday, it's almost like, remember we said that the Jews were afraid of the sea, but it was like all a plan from Hashem, almost seems like, right, a plan from Hashem to get the Jews near the sea, as if their backs towards the sea, the Egyptians to follow them into the sea, and now drown the Egyptians in those waters. The Jewish people walked in dry land in the sea. They're walking in dry land. And the walls of the ocean are walls for them. The sides of the ocean are walls for them from the right side and the left side. They're like walking in between walls. And that day, Hashem saved the Jewish people. They were free. They were saved from the Egyptians beyond Mitzrayim. And the Jewish people come out on the side of the ocean. I'm going to show you a picture at the end of the class. Where did they come out from? There's different opinions and there's different people have different thoughts, but you'll see it's an interesting picture, which I will show you soon where they came out from. But when they come out, the Jewish people see all the dead, as Mitzrayim Mesos Vasayam, they see all the dead Egyptians that were drowned, that the sea split them out. Rashi says, why was it necessary? I mean, we're going to actually see two interesting things in another Rashi later. But like, you could have just left the seamen all in the ocean, drying them in the waters that are in the middle of the sea. Why do we need to see all the dead bodies coming out on top? And Rashi says the Jews needed to see their tormentors dead, because maybe it's like, I'm just thinking now, like in slavery, you always think you're a slave. Maybe they're gonna come. Maybe they made it out too. We came out here. Maybe they still got out. They're still afraid. They're still carrying. Maybe like some people came from Russia. They're still scared of the KGB 60 years later. As they're living in America, they still have a fear. Maybe the Egyptians came out from another side, just like we came out here, and they're still going to chase us. So to let them know that they're free, that their captors are done with, Hashem made sure that the ocean actually spit out all the dead bodies of these people that were destroyed in the ocean, that they could see that their tormentors and their captors were dead. And the Jewish people see Hashem's unbelievable hand. Tremendous, mighty hand of Hashem. And it's using like the term hand, like just when God's hand, how powerful, just his hand is so powerful. Asher also Hashem in Mitzrayim, that Hashem did to the Egyptians. By Yiru Ha'ames Hashem, and the people, as could be expected, feared Hashem. They were afraid of God. They saw God's might with their own eyes, what he just did to the Egyptian army. By Yaminu B'Hashem, and they believed in God. Uve Moshe Avdai, and also when the servant Moshe, as Moshe was leading the Jewish people, they know he knows what he's talking about. They trust in him. They trust in Hashem. What they just experienced is one of the greatest experiences forever and ever in all of history. That will be, they experienced they were in a tremendous sense of awe and fear. You know how we learn in our Tanya class, we want to have the emotions, the love of Hashem and the fear of Hashem. You better believe it after experiencing this. They believed in Hashem and they trusted in Moshe and they feared Hashem. This led them to a very, very high level of awe and fear and belief in Hashem after experiencing this tremendous miracle. And with that high, unbelievable state they were in, they composed a very famous poem. And that is the poem and the song that we read till today, every single day. They find that this miracle that we just read about is so important to the Jewish people and their state that they were in, that the Chachamim said that in the davening, in the Shacharis morning prayer, every single day when we daven Shacharis, insert on one of the pages in the davening should be inserted this prayer composed by the Jewish people at that moment of ecstasy, that height, tremendous level of holiness as they're fearing and loving Hashem. They composed this song, and Hashem and the Chachamim said that this song, this poem, should be put into the davening. So join me, as today it's always very interesting to have a davening class and to understand what the prayer is saying. So now you have an opportunity, focus and learn what the meaning of this beautiful poem is that we say every day in davening. We talk about this great miracle that the Chachamim seemed it important that this miracle should be spoken about every single day in davening. Let's do this. Again, as I say, the poems and the songs, the prophecies, a lot of times in the Torah, predictions are very complicated, but hopefully I will make it simple as possible and include various interpretations to what the poems mean. Right? As often poems could be interpreted to have a lot of depth and meaning, so we're going to try to dig with Rashi into some of the depth of these poems. Odz Yashir Moshe, then Moshe will sing. Now, I just have to stop here on what Rashi says, because it doesn't say then Moshe sang. It says then, like in future tense, then Moshe will sing. Now, in a simple way, you could say, whenever the Torah wants to refer to something ongoing, it uses the term then, like it was the middle of happening, like it's happening now. It's just an expression to say, then they sang, right? Or it's describing like an event as it's taking place, and as it's happening, you could say, then they sang. But if you want to dig deeper, it's a very, very beautiful thing here that answers a very interesting question. People ask, the Gemara has a whole discussion on where do we see the idea of Tchias HaMesim, that there will be resurrection of the dead in the Torah. And they actually use this verse from here, Az Yashir Moshe, that it actually means literally then. That not just they sang in the past, not just when Moshe wrote the Torah describing the fact that the Jewish people sang, a month and a half ago when they split the sea, but it's actually referring to the future, that there will be a time when Mashiach will come and the world will all believe in Hashem. Maybe the whole world will believe in Hashem as the faith of the Jewish people splitting the sea, when the Jewish people will come back and they will sing again. that this is actually a reference. According to the Medrash interpretation, the rabbis say that this is actually also not just describing the past miracle, but the future miracle that will take place, because everyone will wake up once again. And all these people that were there at the splitting of the sea will be again when Mashiach comes. They will sing this song again to Hashem. Very interesting. And we sing it till today. Till today, thousands of years after the story took place, we sing this in shul every day. We say this song. Just an interesting idea. So what happens is, Az Yasher Moshe, they see this miracle, and these people just are such ecstasy, as I mentioned before, such happy, such power, such belief, and they start singing the song together to Hashem. As Ashira Hazois, this song, La Hashem, to God. But Yoimru Leimar, and they said, Yoimru Leimar, Ashira La Hashem, I will sing to God. I will sing to God. Ki Goi Ga. Goi Ga. Goi Ga has double wording here. He's supremely supreme. What does it mean, supremely supreme? So there's a number of ways that we can interpret this word supremely supreme. There's three different ways actually Rashi interprets. Why don't you just say God's supreme? What do you mean he's supremely supreme? So number one way is to say he's supreme over supreme ones, even the greatest of greats. Hashem is greater than the greatest of greats. He's supremely supreme. He's even supreme over the greatest supreme beings. That's what it means. He's God. If you ever say that, Az Yasher, it says he's supremely supreme. He's God, because he's, one way to interpret it, he's greater than the greats. Another way is, it's telling us, when it's telling us he's greater than great, means he's doing something that's impossible for anybody else to do. What is impossible? He drowned the horse with the rider together in the ocean. Usually you in a war against horse riders, you knock the guy off the horse and then you kill the guy, whatever, and you take care of the horse. But Hashem is taking them in one mash, one shot, the horse and the horse rider, and he takes them and he puts them both into the ocean. So Goi Ga, he's supremely supreme, meaning he's doing something that when other people go to war and fight, this never happens. They can never have something like that happen. And another thing he says, a very interesting interpretation here, and about, by the way, about singing. This is a very important point you should know. Sometimes, and I'll tell you what kind of question this will answer. This is a good point here. Sometimes people say, I want to write my own davening. I feel more comfortable writing my own siddur. I'm not so comfortable with the rabbi's words. Let me write my own prayer. It's more personal. There's one major problem when you compose your own prayers. And I think the Gemara talks about this somewhere, if I remember correctly, that when you give someone a compliment, sometimes you could actually offend them. Like let's say someone gave you a gift of $1 million and you tell the person, thank you so much for giving me $10. I really, really appreciate it. It's a slap in the face. So who are people that don't know the right way to compliment God? You're actually, you might be saying something wrong. Hashem is much greater than you. God's so great, he could do this. But you're not at all getting it or understanding. It could actually be a problem. So to compose that in the davening and to make up our own words, like there's some modern, they want to change the siddur, write their own words. You're not allowed to touch it. We learned this in our Kitzur Shulchan Aruch class, is that each word is made up with divine names of God. You have to stick to your nusach. You can't combine two different ways of davening because everything is written with holiness and intention. And by the way, the rabbis themselves copy the prayers from the rabbis before them when they put it in. They didn't. What did they do? They put Az Yasher in. You see, they didn't make up their own prayer. They took Az Yasher, which is in the Torah, and they put that inside the prayers because it's not so simple to make up your own stuff. So when they say the words are Ki Ga, God is greater than great, it means to say no matter how much we praise you in our song that we're going to sing, you're much greater. We're not, God forbid, we're not saying that we can say you're complete exaltedness because you're exalted beyond exalted. We can't even comprehend the exaltedness that you have. So Ga, when it says a double expression here, it's saying you're exalted above exalted, which means we're going to sing what we're feeling now, but Hashem, in no means are we meeting this is the total capacity of your exaltedness because we know you're exalted beyond whatever comprehension we have. Very beautiful words in this beautiful poem. Sus v'rochvay, a man and his rider, Rama Vayam, he cast into the sea. He threw it down, took a horse and rider and chucked them down into the bottom of the sea. The Rashi says, we're going to see another word, Yara, I think is the word, and Rama. So we see two words. We see he raised up and he cast down. So we're going to see soon, very interesting, that he didn't just die on impact. Like they suffered. They were thrown down to the bottom of the sea and they were pushed back up to the top of the sea. It would have been good to have, sometimes having a quick death is the way you want to go. But we're going to see soon in the Chumash that it depends on how bad the Egyptian was, what the punishment will be. We'll see in Rashi in a little bit that it wasn't just some people died on impact if they were really righteous people, and they, not righteous fully, but a little bit. You'll see that there was also kindness there, depending on how much of a criminal, how bad the person was. But we'll see that in a little bit. So that's one interpretation, is either just cast down, but also telling you that some of them were cast up and down, and together, horse and rider together in one shot, they were thrown around inside the ocean. Let's move on to the next verse, verse number 2. I explained the Rashi's here. Ozi v'zimras ka. God's might and God's vengeance, or someone want to interpret it as a strength and a song of God. Ozi v'zimras ka, his strength and his might. By he li lishua, they were a salvation to me. Hashem's strength and his might, they were my salvation. And then he goes on to say some very powerful words. Zeh keli. They said in the splitting the sea, the people there said, "This is my God." This. And Rashi says something fascinating about the words. They said, "This is my God." Zeh keli v'anveu. Basically, they saw the finger of God, which means the simplest Jew saw a greater revelation on Mount Sinai than the greatest prophets will ever see. That the experience, which is why people are shocked later, how did the Jews sin? But the experience of the Jew was almost, how like we always say, you can know about God, but you can't know God. They experienced there, almost, they even use the Hebrew term zeh, pointing. When you point, you say this in the modern Hebrew. When you want to point at something, you say zeh, this. They experience God as this. This is my God, right here. I could see it, I could feel it, I know it. It's literally real and personal and physical. Like I experienced it in a very more of a factual way than ever in history anyone will experience the revelation of Hashem at that point. And that's when the words in this poem, Zeh Keli, this is my God. V'anvehu, and I will build him a home. Some interpret that added as beautiful. This is my beautiful God. Or Anvehu, this is my God, and I will build him a home. I will build Hashem a home. I'll build him a residence. Elikei Avi, he's the God of my forefathers. I'm not the first one to recognize God. This is God's been around for a long time. This is God has been the God of my parents and grandparents and great Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Ve'aroi mimenu, and I will extol him. I will exalt him. This is my God, and I will exalt God. Let's go on to the next verse. Beautiful poem, beautiful words the Jewish people are saying to Hashem. Hashem ish milchama. God is a man of war. Hashem Shemai. Hashem is his name. This is the God of war. Steps up and protects the Jewish people. And he says, Rashi says, how does God fight with his name? Not with missiles and rockets. Hashem doesn't need to fight a war. When you ask God for help to save you from a war, to protect you, Hashem is not using the same battle plans as people do, but Hashem is fighting a war on your behalf. He's using his name. His holiness is the way Hashem gets rid of the wicked people, that it fights the war against the wicked people. Another interpretation, Rashi adds to this, saying that Hashem is the man of war. Hashem is his name. He says, when you go to a country that's in a war, they're focused solely, they're one-track minded. They're focused solely on the war. They can't do anything else. They can't help their constituents. But Hashem is not so. Hashem has mercy and is meanwhile taking care of everybody, the rest of the world. They have food to eat and they have their needs and everything else that they need. Hashem is fighting a war for the Jews, but at the same time, Hashem is his name. He's the one that sustains while he's fighting a war, protecting the Jewish people against those wicked people. He's saving the rest of the world and feeding them and taking care of them. At the same time, he's able to do both things at one time because he's God. The chariots and his army of Pharaoh, Yaravayam, he hurled them into the sea. Umivchar Shalishav, and his elite officers, Tabu v'Yamsuf, he drowned them into the Yamsuf. His elite and greatest officers into the Yamsuf. Rashi explains a little bit here. The word Tabu means that it turned to mud. So what happened is they specifically, Hashem turned the ocean into mud, a very thick mud, and drowned the Egyptians in the mud. And going with what we see constantly in the Torah, Hashem punishes everyone with the crime that they did. What was the crime that the Egyptians forced the Jews to suffer tremendously in building huts, right, out of chaymer levain, clay and bricks? So their death came about, their end death came about in the ocean, as Hashem turns the ocean into the same kind of mortar that the Egyptians made the Jews suffer with, and he drowned them inside this very thick, muddy mixture and drowned them into very similar things than what they made the Jews, forced the Jews to do. The depths covered them, the deep waters covered them. They dropped down to the depths of the oceans, like stone. And there's an interesting Rashi here explaining to you 3 different words we will describe how they drop down in the ocean. One time it says that they're dropping down like rocks. Another place it'll say that they drop down like lead. And another place it says Hashem consumes them like straw. Why does it say everything's particular? And here's Rashi comes with the very interesting interpretations that there were 3 levels of wickedness among the Egyptians. The ones that were really, really wicked, Hashem drowned them like straw, which means they didn't have a quick death. It was a very slow and painful death to punish them for the crime of being tremendously horrific people and torturing people tremendously. So the death came about as they drowned in a slow drowning death. Maybe they had air and then they drowned. That was the way that they drowned. People that were mediocre people drowned like stones. The people that were the righteous of the wicked people, they drowned like lead, meaning they just went straight down to the bottom of the ocean and they had a quick death, as they were not the most evil like the rest of the Egyptians that were torturing the Jewish people. In verse 6, God, your right hand is the most powerful. Your right hand of Hashem is majestic in its strength. Yemincha Hashem, it says twice. Your right hand, okay, Yemincha, it says twice the word Yemincha. Right hand is Nadari Bakoyach, is most powerful. And your right hand, Tiratz Oyev, crushes its foes. So what's with this right hand twice? So Rashi tries to explain, he can give an explanation to it. He says that when Jews do what Hashem wants, Hashem has 2 right hands. You know, like they say on a person, he has 2 left hands. Hashem has 2 right hands protecting the Jewish people. They both, the power of the right hand becomes to the Jewish people and saves them. One hand, the right hand saves the Jewish people, and the right hand also smashes the enemies of the Jewish people. That's one interpretation in Rashi. Like I told you, some of the interpretations are different. Another interpretation Rashi gives is that God's right hand can do 2 things. It's not 2 right hands, not that his right hand and his left hand, but his 2 right hands are also saving the Jews and at the same time smashing the enemies, which a regular person can't do. Okay, let's go on. Tiratz Oyev, it crushes the enemy. And constantly, it's a constant thing. He protecting the Jewish people and the enemies that attack the Jewish people. The right hand of Hashem is continuously there in order to smash the enemies who are trying to hurt the Jewish people. And with the immensity of your power, with your great pride or the immensity of your power, Taharis Kamecha, you annihilate your adversaries. Who are Hashem's adversaries? The ones who attack the Jewish people. They automatically become Hashem's adversaries, Rashi says. And when you flare up and get angry, you devour them like straw. So again, we also have, I believe here, 3 different terms used. One is Hashem's hand smashes them. And then we have another term here, we said, annihilate your adversaries. Then we have the breath of your nostrils. So in other words, if Hashem's hand, Rashi says, does such havoc and destruction to the enemies, you could only imagine when Hashem sets forth his wrath. And with his breath of his nostrils, you could only imagine how much havoc and destruction was caused to the enemies of the Jewish people. Verse 8, with the breath of your nostrils. There's going to be a very important Rashi here in a second, which I want to share with you, answers a question on much of the Torah. In a moment. And with the breath of your nostrils, the waters were heaped up like piles. Came like a gel, I think Rashi says here. Like a gel. They stood erect like noislim kafus haimus blavyam. They stood erect like a wall. The depths congealed in the heart of the sea. I think in one of our classes we explained. I don't want to really get into it now here. I didn't look at the notes, but I think maybe last year, 2 years ago, we explained some of the commentaries learned that the wind became like a freezing cold and it froze the water in a certain sense. But we're not getting into that now. Just this, it's a very interesting discussion to have at another time in our Tuesday night class to get into something like this, but not for now. But anyway, based on the Rashi's interpretation is simply here that I want to share with you what is this nostril thing, and something's bothering Rashi, and many of you probably asked this question. Why would we this term of God's nostril? So we know Rashi says when a human being gets angry, he gets heated up and it's hard to breathe, and you get heated in your nostrils. So, we have the imagery of your nostrils are exuding, heat and smoke and fire. And we're saying by Hashem, when you get passionate, Hashem gets passionate and involved, he gets angry. So people always ask, well, obviously we believe Hashem is no physical form. So Rashi is addressing this in short over here in this verse. He says, the reason why the Torah is giving such, physical imagery on Hashem is to allow our ears of people that are reading the Torah to have a grasp on what's going on. In other words, we could take the approach and say, look, Hashem's infinite. You cannot understand anything about God, and then you'll have very little appreciation for Hashem and understand what's going on. So the Torah uses imagery, right hand, smashing with his right hand, right? Throughout the entire Torah, this answers this general question that the Torah needs to use imagery for our comprehension ability so we could understand what's going on. And God forbid not to say that God has actually nostrils that are flaring. The breath of his nostrils obviously is not really what's taking place. Rashi does address that over here in this context. Anyway, continuing right along. So the heat of his nostrils dried the water and made it into like solid masses and solid heaps. I think he says also somewhere that the Egyptians were kind of like thrown, so it became hard. The water congealed, it became hard, and the Egyptians are being thrown against like rocks, these hard rocks, and that's what's killing them, is the way that they're getting whacked around by the water covering them, and they're getting bumped into these thick rocks and stuff, and the congealment is what's causing their death. Amar Oyev, the enemy said when they were chasing the Jews, they were sure it was a done deal. Erdaif, let's chase Asig, we'll grab the Machalet Shalom, we'll split the booty, we'll split the spoils of the war. They're already planning, they're ready, who gets what. They're ready, we're calculating what they're gonna get, the spoils of war. They're looking at the spoils. Timlei my nafshi, my desire will be satiated with them, that the enemies will say will be satiated with the spoils from the Jews. We're going to get back maybe our money. We're going to draw our swords, pull out our swords from the sheaths, and we will impoverish them, right? We'll completely destroy them. And this is how the enemies of the Jews are talking. They're back to attack the Jewish people. And in the song, the Jews are recounting what was going on, how the Egyptians were going to already planning their demise, and how they're going to inherit all the money of the Jewish people. The shafta v'ruchacha, you blew with your wind, right? That's how Hashem made the water stand and then come back. Kisamu yam, and then the sea covered them. Talalu kai feres, and they sank like lead, like Rashi brought before. The mayim adirim, in the powerful waters, the people sank like lead. Micha moicha ve'elam Hashem. Oh, who is like you? Who is powerful like you, Hashem? Micha moicha neder b'kodesh. Who is majestic in holiness like you, Hashem? I say noira sehila. I say fella, he's too powerful to praise. Like we mentioned before, we're scared to say your praises because God forbid we shouldn't have praise you or minimize the praise that you deserve. Where who is like you? Noira sehila, I say fella, he's too awesome praise, who makes wonders among the Jewish people. Netisa yamincha, you stretched out your right hand, tivlei emei aretz, and you swallowed them. And Rashi gives an analogy here. He says the whole world is like in Hashem's hand. If Hashem wants something to get destroyed, all he does is turn his hand a little bit. It's not like in an imagery. What does he have to do? Send and destroy, whatever, all these things. No, well, Hashem is a little shift of his hand. And Rashi gives an example. It's like a glass cup that, a glass cup smashes on the floor. All you do is you turn your hand a little bit. The cup goes off balance and it hits the floor and it smashes. So that's what it's like by Hashem. It's not like he has to do all these forces and everything else. Little twitch of the hand. The world's like a glass thing. Hits the floor and it automatically shatters and gets destroyed. Now, Rashi says, very interesting, on the next half of this verse 12, Mitisi Yamincha, you took you incline your right hand, you turn it a little bit, things fall and smash, but Tivle'ema Aretz, and the earth swallowed them up. And you should know this is actually a kindness that Hashem did for them. What does it mean the earth swallowed them up? It means that they ended up having a respectable burial. Zachul Kfura. Now, wow, that's interesting. Why did they merit to get a death? I also find it interesting. Remember, we said how the ocean spit them out so that the Jew, we said at the beginning of today's Chumash, so it must be after the people were spit out, some kind of burial must have taken place in order to bury them outside the ocean. Very interesting. But why? Well, Rashi addresses, why did these horrible people merit to do it? So Rashi says, if you look, we're holding chapter 15, but if you go back to chapter 9, one of the points where the Jewish people regretted and they felt bad by the plagues that they were getting, they said, Hashem is a tzaddik and we are wrong. And since there was some positive speech on behalf of the terrible Egyptians, Hashem said, because you said Hashem is tzaddik, that God is righteous and he's correct in what he's doing to us, they actually praised Hashem and they merited, after their death, or their horrific death, the merit at least to have burial for their bodies. Very interesting. Verse 13. With your kindness, you guided Am Zuga Alta, this nation that you redeemed. With your kindness, you guided and led the Jewish people. Nahalta va'ascha, you El Nevei Kachecha, you led them with your strength. El Nevei Kachecha, to the seat of your holiness. Right? They're going to bring them to the seat of holiness. Shamu Ami, we're going to see soon. He's going to talk about the Beis Hamikdash. Maybe it means here the Temple Mount. You bring the Jewish people to where they're going to go, the seat of holiness. Shamu Amim, your Gazun. The nations heard and they shuddered. The world heard this miracle taking place. Remember, like we're going to learn that Yisro is going to hear. The whole world is going to hear what's taking place. Yir Gazun, and they started freaking out. They started shuddering. Chil Achaz Yoshua Palashas, and terror gripped the inhabitants of Palashas. Here's something very interesting, which if not for this Rashi or the Gemara that tells the story, we wouldn't know the story. Something very fascinating here. He's telling you that who was freaking out, which nation specifically is he going to mention was freaking out? The inhabitants of Palashas. What in the world do Palashas have to do? Who is Palashas? And why are they scared of the Jewish people? Why specifically them? The whole world's freaking out, and Palashas, you better believe, is really freaking out. So Rashi tells us a very interesting part of history, which we did not see straight out in the Torah. There was a group of people called Ephraim. We know Menashe and Ephraim loved Eretz Yisrael. We know the tribe of Joseph had specifically love for the land of Israel. And 30 years before the time of redemption officially came, they were already getting hot under the collar. And according to their calculation, the time for leaving exile, the time for leaving Mitzrayim had already come, and it was time for them to get up and go. And guess what? 200,000 people, I think he says, from the tribe of Ephraim, 200,000 Jews from the tribe of Ephraim got up and left Egypt. Very interesting. And it really wasn't the time. And then we came to a place, this place of Palashas. There's a place called Gas, the men of Gas. And in this place of Palashas, and they literally wiped out the whole tribe. I think they left like just, 10, 20, 30 people left who ran back to Mitzrayim. And by the way, that's the only reason why they had the tribe, I guess, later on, because of the survivors of that attack. Maybe it wasn't the whole tribe that went, I'm not sure. But 200,000 people went out early and they were wiped out. So now Palashas, now you understand why we say in Yashir that in the song that Palashas was specifically afraid, because they were very scared of what the Jews will do back to them now and avenge the death that they almost wiped out 200,000 people from the tribe of Ephraim. Very interesting. Verse 15. The Edomites, the tribe of Esav, were melting. They were startled. They were scared. They were petrified. They were trembling. Why? And Rashi says, well, what do the Edomites have to do with anything? The Edomites are the descendants of Esav, but they live to the south of Israel. What's their connection to this Egypt, exiting Egypt over here? So Rashi says that they were upset that the Jews were succeeding. Not specifically that they were afraid. I think we do see soon they were afraid maybe they'll come and get their country, even though the Jews weren't heading to Edom at all. But they were sad that the Jews were getting such honor. In other words, so they're freaking out. Why? They were upset that their distant cousins were getting such honor and respect with everything that took place. So they are very, very, they're shuddering and shuddering because of this. They were the people of Elei Moav, the mighty people of the Moabites. Were also trembling. They lived to the north of the Edomites, I believe. All the inhabitants of the land of Canaan, which is Israel, which will later become Israel, the Jewish people go, their hearts melted and they were afraid. And that the reason is because they knew that the Jews are going to head to Israel. and now they're on their way to eventually capture the land of Israel for them. So they're rightfully makes sense that they're afraid, the Canaanites, because Jews are heading to their country. Fell upon them dread and fear. And Hashem's greatness, Hashem's mighty hand, which is like a rock. The people that were far away and the close people, ema, fear on the distant ones, and pachad, and fright on the close ones. Everybody nearby was afraid of the Jewish people. Ad yavor amcha Hashem, until the nation of Hashem will cross over. Ad yavor amzukanisa, until this acquired nation passes over and will cross over to where they need to go. They were very, very afraid of the Jewish people. Where are they going? Verse 17, you will bring them, and you will plant them, and you will settle them on the mountain of your inheritance. Okay? So this great nation who's loved more than any other nation, you will bring them. And Moshe is saying you will bring them. And here is Rashi says a coded prophecy that not him, not you will bring us, but you will bring them. Meaning Moshe is prophesying here, maybe unknowingly, that he will not be involved. And you will bring them to your mountain, to your mountain of your heritage. What about? It's a very interesting description of the Temple Mount here. Corresponding direct to your seat. So very interesting thing about the Temple Mount, that the Beis Hamikdash below, Rashi says, is directly opposite the temple above. So what's holy about that area, you're going to bring them to your Temple Mount, which is a prepared place for you, Hashem. Which is directly opposite your seat, the Temple Mount. You're going to bring them there. And the hands of God have formed this temple. Very interesting Rashi in these words. What does it mean? The hands of Hashem have built the Beis Hamikdash. So we know King David was the one, or King Solomon was the one who built the first Beis Hamikdash, and then with the permission of Darius, in the time after the story of Purim, the Jews built the second Beis Hamikdash. But here it seems to be saying that Hashem will build it himself. And from here comes, I believe, one of the sources that who will be the one to build the third Beis Hamikdash, which is what he's talking about over here, will actually be built by Hashem himself. A lot of commentaries on this topic. It will be maybe a joint. I think the Rebbe says that it'll be joint. Some part of it will be made by man, part of it will be made by God. But it's very interesting. The verse says, the sanctuary, O Lord, which your hands founded, which your hands formed, the Lord that your hands have formed. It's an indication here that the Beis Hamikdash will be built actually by Hashem. Another famous verse we say often in davening, verse 18, Hashem yimloich la'olam vad, Hashem will rule la'olam vad, forever and ever. Hashem will be the ruler of the world, especially at the time when the Beis Hamikdash will be built by Hashem's hand, which the world will recognize that Hashem is as the king of the world. Kivasus pari berichvei, because the chariots of Pharaoh and the horses, ufarasha bayam, were put into the ocean. Vayasav Hashem aleim esmei, Hashem covered them with the water of the ocean. And the Jewish people walked in the dry land in the ocean. Okay, so that is the end of the Azyasha that we say, and the main part of the poem. Again, we're not done yet. This number 2 or 3 very interesting things we're going to go through quickly. Atinkach Miriam and Avia Achis Aaron, sister of Miriam, the sister of Aaron, Aaron's sister Miriam, right? Moses had 2 siblings, Aaron and Miriam. And by the way, he calls her a prophetess, Miriam the prophetess. Why is she called a prophetess? Since when is Miriam a prophetess? And she told her brother, Aaron, the Gemara says, it's actually in the Talmud Sota that we're learning on our Sunday night's class, that mother will give birth to a child that who will be Moses, will be born. She's destined to bear a son, and she already prophesied it. So she was a very holy prophetess, even as a little girl, we know. Another thing is, the Rashi explains very interesting here. Why is it Aaron called her sister? Why doesn't she say Moses' sister? Why does it say Aaron's sister? And the reason is because Aaron gave his life up for her, becoming her close brother. She's his close sister. What happened is when Miriam will speak some kind of gossip later on in the desert and she'll break out with leprosy, Aaron will stand up to her defense and tell Moses that he needs to pray to heal her. So at that point, Aaron will become her brother, meaning very, very close, because he's defending her. So this, again, so Miriam, who's a prophetess, because she prophesied already early on as a young child, and who is the sister of Aaron, because Aaron will stand up for her later on. She took as a toif, she took this interesting musical instruments. So people say it's like a what do they call it? A tambourine, some kind of drum, some kind of tambourine. And all the women went after her with tufim and muchelos, with timbrels, with dances, with these kind of instruments, and they go and they're dancing with them. And the Rebbe points out here something very interesting to this Rashi. The Rebbe also mentioned the Rashi that I'm going to quote now. Now, the women, how did they have these musical instruments with them? They're in the middle of the, in the middle of the Sinai desert, or near the Sinai desert, whatever it was, the splitting of the sea. How do they have, what, they brought along their guitar, like imagine someone going traveling, they bring the guitar and the flutes. And Rashi says these women were righteous women. This teaches us about the beauty and the amazing of the Jewish women, is that they were so certain that they would be freed and that Hashem would perform miracles, that they took the musical instruments that they would use to sing to Hashem after this unbelievable miracles would take place. The Rebbe would often refer to that the holy Jewish women as being the real believers who keep the Jewish nation together, as we see this beautiful Rashi is pointing out here about the verse that the women had all the musical instruments with them and ready to sing and dance at the great miracles of Hashem. And how come they had it with them is because the women have the trust and faith in Hashem necessary to get the Jewish people through the hard times. Batan lahem Miriam, and Miriam called out to them. She led them in song, and she says, Shiru Hashem. Miriam said, sing to God, Ki God, because God's exalted above exalted. She had the horse and its riders together, cast them in to the nation. And Rashi says, what was going on here? He says there was two concerts. There was Moshe was singing for the men, and Miriam was singing to the women. And Moshe would sing and the men would respond, and Miriam would sing and the women would respond. I believe I saw this in Gemara once about Hallel. You ever saw the Hallel prayer? We say Ana Hashem, Mashiach, everyone responds, Ana Hashem, Mashiach, whatever. The responsive kind of singing is what's taking place here at the sea, and we do that also in Hallel. And we sing together, and that's kind of the way that the song was taking place. This beautiful concert of the singing, the greatness of Hashem, the women with the women and the men with the men are having their own concerts taking place, just singing and dancing with musical instruments to Hashem. And Moshe led the Jews away. We're going to follow up. Very interesting Rashi here too. Moshe he schlepped the Jews away from the sea. From the edge of the sea, from the edge of the Red Sea. Vayetzu al midbar Shur, and they went to the Shur desert. Now Rashi says, why did he have to schlep them away? What's going on over here? Why is he schlepping them away from the sea? The wording used there is Moses had to pull them away. And Rashi says that the horses, when the Egyptians went out to attack the Jews, they took all their gold and silver with them and the nice stones. They adorned their cavalry, the chariots with the nicest gold. And remember, we said in Rashi that the animals and everything was spit out by the riders, the people were spit out from the ocean. So to show them that they died, and also the Jews see there's a lot of money left behind that they didn't take out yet. And Rashi says it was more money in the spoils that were spit out from the sea than all the money that they collected originally in Egypt. And the Jewish people got to work and they started filling up their sacks. So Moshe Rabbeinu had to say, guys, we got to go to Har Sinai, we got to go. And he schleps them away from the Vayetze and Midbar Shur, and they went to the desert of Shur. They traveled for 3 days. The Midbar Veloy Matzu Mayim, and they did not find water. Couldn't find water where they were. I'm going to show you the map over here in a moment, so that you could see where exactly they're traveling. Very interesting. Okay, so if you look here. This is the second part of traveling, okay? So look at the screen here. You see the Shur Desert. You see the Piachiros. I'm in the middle of a class. You see Piachiros. And you see the traveling from Esam to Mara. So they're going to get to Mara. They're not going to have water to drink. Just look at the map for a moment, then we'll get back to the verses. So see the Shur Desert. The Sinai Desert is more south of here. You see Egypt on to the north. And they just had the miracle through the sea. I'm going to show you the picture and exactly how they got out, where they went in and where they went out of the sea in a second. Let's look at the picture here. And from Esam, they traveled for 3 days to Mara. And Mara, they're not going to have water. So this is the second picture in the map. I want to show you the first picture. Let me see if I can get away from here. Wait, 1 second. Okay. Hang on one second. I'll show you the next picture now. Whoops, I lost the picture. Give me 1 second. I think these pictures are very helpful. So I will try to show you. Yeah, is this the one? Hold on. No, I opened up the same file. 1 second. Here's the next picture. Okay. So here you go. Here is according to this commentary at least, you see that they went from Piachiros, they went into the ocean from there. The Egyptians had attacked them. They came down from the north to the south. They traveled all the way into the Red Sea, and they came out, by the way, almost from the same side where they went in. So as opposite of popular thought that some people think they crossed right through the Red Sea, they did not cross, according to many of the understandings of the Torah. They didn't cross through. They actually came out to the western side of the sea. You see, not exactly where they entered, but they did not go straight through the sea. They actually did like a kind of a half a circle, coming in and out on the other side. Very interesting. So let's go back to the Psukim now, and we will see. We'll finish it up in today's Chumash. Oh boy, where is it? Hold on, let me shut the picture down. I think I might have lost it. Hold on, I'll get it back in a second. Give me 1 second, guys. Somehow I shut the screen down, but not a problem. We'll get it back in a second. We're almost done with today's Chumash. Okay, so they are traveling. Moshe schleps them away, right? They were all the way by the Egyptians are spit out. We left off, and they were going to collect the money. And from the Vayasa Moshe collects them. Let's go verse 22. Vayasa Moshe Yisrael miyamsu. Moshe led the Jews away from the Yamsu. Vayetzel midbar shur, and he leads them into the desert shur, which I showed you in the picture. Vayelchu shleishes yam midbar, and they traveled for 3 days. And there's a major problem. They did not find water. I guess their water was learning Joe. Whatever they had in their cups and their canteens, water was becoming smaller and smaller. And they came to a place called Mara, as I showed you in the map. But they couldn't drink water from that place. Mara means bitter in Hebrew. Mara means bitter. That is why they called the place bitter. Why did they call the place bitter? Because the water there was water there, but the water was bitter, and you have, 3 million people, and there's no water to drink. You got a major problem. And the people started complaining against Moshe, not asking nicely for water, which Hashem is going to be upset about. Saying, Moshe, please, what do we do? What's the next step? They started complaining. What should we drink? And Hashem doesn't like the way that they are approaching this challenge. Vayitzak al Hashem, so he cried out to Hashem. So what does he do? There's water, but it's bitter. Hashem shows him a branch, a tree, a piece of wood. And he throws it into the water. And the water became sweet. And at this location where the story of the water happened, something very interesting, Rashi says. He begins to teach them the Torah. He begins to start teaching them Torah. He actually doesn't wait to get to Mount Sinai to teach the Jewish people the Torah. He teaches them Shabbos, by the way. Before they even get to Mount Sinai, the Jewish people, Moshe sits down, stands up, whatever. He goes to the Jewish people and he says, guys, I need to tell you, we're going to get the mitzvah of Shabbos. And he teaches them the laws of Parah Aduma, the red heifer. Vidinin, and he teaches them civil law. Starts teaching them about civil law. And according to some commentaries, the Medrash, I believe, he teaches them about kibbud av v'em. Rashi doesn't bring it here for some reason, I'm not sure why, but he teaches them about honoring your parents. So all these things, Moshe Rabbeinu starts to teach the Jews already what will be given to them and the laws of the Torah that will be given to them. They already guess he already knows it. He starts to teach as a teacher of the Jewish people. So that's what it means. Sham, over there, Samloi, he gave them chayk mishpat, statutes and ordinances, and teaching. Rashi says Shabbos, the rules of the heifer, and the civil laws. V'sham niso, and that's also the area where they were tested. It was one of the first tests that they had, and they kind of failed. And Hashem wanted to test them. Will you believe in me? Will you not? Your reward is starting to run low. Will you right away start questioning me when things don't go as planned? And I guess it maybe wasn't such a good success in how the Jews responded. But Moshe tells them, If you will listen, you will accept the Torah. L'koil Hashem, to the voice of God. Hashem Elokecha, your God. Vayasher be'einav taseh. And you will do, not just will you listen and accept the mitzvahs that Hashem is giving you, you will also do what Hashem wants you to do. Not just to listen, learn, but also to do. And you will lend your ear to learn the details and know the details of the mitzvahs. And you will keep all the commandments, even the ones that don't make sense. That the evil inclination in your heart starts making fun of you and says, why are you doing it? It doesn't make any sense. Why can't you have wool and linen clothes together? Why can you not eat pig? What's wrong with the pig? What is the laws of the red heifer? And these kind of laws. Why are you keeping these silly things? But you will not listen to that. You will keep all the laws, even the ones that you don't understand. All these sicknesses and plagues that happened to Egypt, I will not put on you. If you keep my mitzvahs, it's basically telling you medically. If you keep the Torah mitzvahs and do the mitzvahs, accept it, listen to the details, and even the ones that don't make sense, you accept it, all the sicknesses and plagues that I put on the Egyptians will not go on you. And if they do go on you because you didn't listen, the second you do tshuva, the second you return, they will immediately disappear, Rashi says. And he says, Ki ani Hashem reifecha, because I am Hashem, your doctor. I am the God who heals. Hashem refers to himself, you're very interesting as a doctor. So Rashi says, Hashem is telling you, I am the doctor telling you, keep these mitzvahs so that you don't get sick. It's like a doctor tells someone, it's like the vitamins, Torah is not just a medicine once you get sick what to do. Torah is, Hashem is a doctor, and Hashem is telling you, here's the Torah, so that you don't get sick. Keep the Torah mitzvahs, and if you keep the Torah mitzvahs, Hashem is tying in your spiritual Torah with the physical health of a human being, is that when you listen and do the mitzvahs and keep Torah, you will be a healthy person and you won't get sick. And that, my friends, is the end of today's very famous, very beautiful Chumash about the great miracle that happened to the Jews in Mitzrayim. Any questions or comments? I'm not sure what